All right, good afternoon. Exactly 12:31 on the clock. What a time to be here. It is still your favorite show, the Midday Show, right here on your number one talk radio station. 913 is the magic number on the dial. My name is Paula Chine, and guess what? It is time for one of my favorite shows ever, Parenting Today. Like I made mention of just before the news, I made mention of the fact that if you are a parent, you're aspiring to become one, you're an aunt, a guardian, an uncle, a grandparent, or you just want to be a very, very well-meaning individual for each and every child out there, this show is for you. You can learn and unlearn when it comes to becoming the best version in terms of parenting. No one's perfect. We haven't figured it all out. But when it comes to expertise, thank God we have someone who's the closest to it when it comes to perfection and expertise as regards parenting. I'm talking about the CEO of Lagos Moms, aka Global Moms, Miss Yetty Williams, who's my co-host and is joining me virtually today. Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Paula. How are you?
I'm good. I'm happy. I'm pretty excited. Been a minute. How are you? How have you been, Miss Yetty?
I've been good. Thank you. Thanks for asking.
It's great to have you.
The year seems to be absolutely flying.
Please don't remind me. I was just gonna.
When do we get into November? And that one is already chugging along as well.
I tell you, I feel like November has been the fastest month so far. I do not know why, but we'll be fine. Anyways, Miss Yetty, it's amazing to see you, or rather, well, I saw you not too long ago before my break, but it's amazing to have you back on here. Very quickly, let's take a look at today's topic, one that is, when I saw it, I was baffled. Not only was I like, oh my God, she's done it again, something amazing to talk about and to teach us as regards, shed more light. But then this is something that so many parents unintentionally do not even pay attention to. And today's topic is how to raise children who are kind. Right now, so many people have gone through different levels, at different points in time during the course of their education. Some people say I was bullied as a kid. I was bullied as a teenager. The bullying wasn't done by adults or people who weren't part of the school. It was done by their mates, fellow students. And these are also children. So, it begs the question, how were bullies made? I really want to understand, how were bullies made? How can a child who's meant to, as we believe, be innocent and very kind and loving have so much hate and just, met out vile treatment to another child? I really am interested in today's topic because I know so many persons who have been bullied. It would be nice to hear about that.
Yeah, fantastic. Great. So, the reason I even came up with this topic around kindness was, I went to university in the US and Thanksgiving was always, last Thursday of November. And first time I ever Thanksgiving, what they were celebrating was when I was there. And it was really around gratitude and, families would come together and have huge meals and all of that. But it really stuck with me that the idea that once a year in November, people would all come together to be giving thanks to God. So very different from Christmas, right? And it's interesting that whether or not you think of, Americans as being religious or not, they don't play with their Thanksgiving. Families come together to share a sense of gratitude. So that's really always stuck with me, is a sense of gratitude, raising children who have a grateful heart, a grateful attitude, are able to give thanks, are able to appreciate the things that they have. And then when we get into the idea of kindness, how do we actually raise children who are kind? And the angle I'm also bringing in today is the angle of social media and whether or not social media is affecting the ability for all of us to be kind to each other. So as you rightly pointed out, there've always been bullies, and unfortunately, there probably will always be bullies.
Wow.
But a bully is not born. A bully is raised, right? Nobody Nobody comes to the earth. Is born, and the day they are born and they come out of their mother's womb, they immediately say, "Hi, the tag I came with is to be a bully." Nobody comes to the world ready to be a bully. Bullies are actually raised. And what does it mean to be a bully? It is the opposite of kindness, right? A bully is somebody who feels the need to oppress somebody else for whatever reason, whether they feel inadequate, maybe the environment that they are raised in, maybe their parents are bullies at home. Maybe they bully each other, they bully the children, maybe they bully their domestic staff. There's a lot of stuff happening in the home environment that then manifest in the way a child behaves in school to their own friends. So that's where bullying comes from. Nobody was born like that, but some children, unfortunately, are more mean-spirited for a series of reasons which we never really know until it happens. Now, what I've found is when you speak to children who actually do the bullying and you get them at a moment where you can really ask them why they are doing these things, you will find there's a whole lot of issues going on behind the scenes. Some are actually mental health challenges. Some are self-esteem issues. Some are children that are actually just jealous of a friend or a classmate whose mom and dad seem so loving. And because they don't have that at home, they come and they cannot express it in words. So they lash out by being mean to that child because they just think this child seems to have it all. And the last common trait of bullies sometimes is they will bully somebody who seems to have no what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe that they don't seem to have any backbone. They're very wishy-washy. Every small thing they cry. Every small thing they say.
Soft kids who are soft-hearted and easygoing.
I want to call it soft-hearted. Soft-hearted means they are tender and kind. I'm talking about the children who actually are very insecure, very fearful. They're the ones they're very shaky for whatever reason. Once again, usually it's the home environment. But that child shows up in class or in school and is always, on the receiving end. Every small thing, they don't stand up for themselves. They never speak back. They never respond in a way that says, I know my boundaries. Don't cross the line. I'm not going to take that from you. They are the ones who tend to cower. And no matter what happens to them, they just take it. Oh,
wow. Very quickly, Miss Yetty, I'm going to open up the phone lines right away. And for those who want to join, they can do so. So let me call out the numbers, and then I have a very interesting question I'd love to ask you. In the meantime, to everyone who's listening, if you want to be a part of this conversation, do not wait. You can join the conversation right away. You can do that via X. Our handle is at Lagos Talks 913. Kindly use the hashtag parenting today, so we know that is directed towards this conversation. If you want to join via WhatsApp, you can call, send a message or a voice note, right? Come up with your questions and we can talk about it. The number for WhatsApp, 0809 234 5913. You can also call any of these numbers if you want to have a chat with Miss Yetty and I here in the studio, 0809 222 0913, 0809 234 5913, and the landline number you can call on 015151913. Miss Yetty, very quickly, I know that you've mentioned kids who can't speak up, but then there's something that's always been on my mind. For some reason, I believe that for a child to be so mean-spirited at such a young age, perhaps do they see their parents act out in some brash way at home? Perhaps they have a parent who's constantly yelling or saying mean things. I don't believe kids just come up with this meanness on their own. I've been told over time, kids are sponges and they absorb whatever is going on like within their immediate environment. So for the kids who are the bullies, perhaps they've seen a parent play the role of a bully at home. And for those who are insecure and do not make their boundaries known, are these possibly kids from very loving homes who had no reason to establish any boundaries whatsoever because they always felt they were in a safe environment at home? Does this in any way affect the possibility of how the bully and then the victims are made?
Yeah, I believe that to a large extent,
Okay.
however a child manifests outside the home is based on how they are raised in the home environment, what they're seeing, what is sometimes even said and unsaid.
Okay.
Children many times, I'm sure we've all heard that phrase or that quote that says, children do what you do, not what you say. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on that is going into developing a child in the early years, right? From a very early stage when before the child can talk, the child is picking up everything, the emotions of the mother, the parent, the caregivers. A lot of research also shows that the stress level of a pregnant mother affects the child, when the child is in the womb. So a lot of things are connected. So nobody comes into the world, number one, I don't believe anybody comes into the world as an absolute zero slate.
Really?
Yes, no. I believe that a lot of things are hard coded already. So when you say things like genes, DNA, generational causes, generational behaviors, generational trauma, a lot of those things come through the genes, truly, in summary. This is a deeper conversation that we can get into on this call. Maybe there will be another session. But the truth is, when a child is born, they are not 100% zero slate. They bring certain things from their ancestors, from their mothers, from their fathers, from the environment of how they were conceived, from the 9 months they spent in the womb. All of those things play a part in the child when the child is born.
Wow.
And this is more on a neurological level. Some of things going on in the child's chemistry, hormones, how they respond. Some of it is hardwired, right? This is not to make people fearful and scared, like, oh my God, I'm done for. No, it's to realize that certain things are in the blood, which is why you will hear some people say, this child just behaves like the grandfather that he or she never met. Right? There's some of those situations where somebody will say, this child is like, it's as if this child has been here before. Things like that. It comes from somewhere. So I don't believe that anybody is 100% a zero slate. However, when we have more informed parents, more informed caregivers, more informed pastoral care, for example, and we're all aware that we all come with a little bit of coding already coded in us. Now, how do we make sure we're socializing people to have the characteristics we want in the world? Today, for example, we're talking about kindness. So what does that mean? Some of our cultures actually are very influential. You know what I mean? Some cultures are not very kind to each other. Some cultures are quite, critical, quite harsh. All of these things play a part in the kind of child that you are raising in that environment, which is why a child can leave Nigeria, go to another country, and seem like a different person within 6 months. And you're wondering what happened. It's also the environment.
Oh, wow.
So to answer your question, every child that manifests a certain behavior outside, it is a mixture of their nature, which is what I'm talking about, of how you are born, like what's kind of in your bloodline, if you will, and nurture, meaning how are you nurtured? The good thing is that when we are aware, we can nurture a child into the nature that we want.
Wow. Okay. But Miss Yetty, very quickly, I picked up one of the things you said, that no child is a blank slate. No child is born like totally empty, like a blank slate. But the thing is, when you say that, does this mean that bullies are more likely to bear bullies in the form of kids? Like, it might be passed on based on genetics. So if someone was to be a bully today, there is a possibility that one of their kids might end up being a bully based on science and genetics, hereditary. Do you think that's possible?
So to be a bully is an act. It's an action. Okay. Right? Mm-hmm. That means maybe you're somebody that's more oppressed, or you don't have emotional intelligence and you don't know how to use your words. So if, for example, you're feeling threatened by somebody in your class because you feel that, quote unquote, their life is perfect, and in your mind that makes you feel not good about yourself, but you want to bragado it and seem as if you are better than everybody else, your action in that scenario might make you behave like a bully. Does that make sense? Yes. So you're not born a bully. It is the behaviors that can be aggressive, oppressive. That bullying is a behavior trait, Now, can you be born a bully? I don't believe you can be. However, you can be born with some of the characteristics that maybe makes you more aggressive. Does that make sense? Okay. Or makes you somebody who doesn't use their words. You have some families where they don't express how they feel. That's just how they are. And they will just say, in this family, we just get on with it. We don't really talk about our feelings. We're not soft like that. Right? So that child is born into an environment where maybe that's how the family is. The child is now nurtured in that environment of, we don't talk about our feelings. We just, pack everything inside and we just get going. For them, that's a measure of toughness. That child would then learn that, okay, this is how we operate in this home, in this environment, in this community, in this country. So that is how I then express myself outside. Oh, wow. So I know I'm giving you a perfect answer, because the truth is that there are many layers to it. There are many layers to it. Where that's why I say we can be nurtured into the nature that we want. So if a particular family is a certain way, there are people that come and say, I'm going to break the generational trauma.
Patterns, yeah.
Particular family, and they start something different because they've seen that this way is not serving us. How can we change it?
Oh wow, I like that. Thank you very much. Now, there's someone who tried calling via WhatsApp, but we couldn't take it. So he sent a message here. Just a minute. Okay, so here it says, Mr. Ignatius from Ejigbo. My son reported to me that a boy had been picking on him and he punched him during PE. That's, I think, physical education. I confronted the boy's father after school and we got into a heated argument. Now, 2 days later, my son ended up fighting back and hurting the boy. Now they're saying that they might suspend my son. But when I complained during the open day to the teacher, nothing was done. Is my son wrong? So I think this is a case of fighting back and probably something, bad just happening. But I want to know, Miss Yetty, for a parent like this who's asking, what's wrong his son has done for fighting back and unfortunately hurting the bully. In this case, do you think the child who fought back, maybe rather viciously, is wrong? Should children fight back, or should they just, play the lamb?
So this is a real scenario that we get often, right? Okay, so what happens? And I think it's really about have the parents done everything they needed to do? So the minute a child, reports that they're a victim of being bullied, right? Do the parents take it seriously? Do you report in school? Do you document that you've reported it in school? That's another thing I think parents need to get comfortable with. Document as much as possible. Okay. So the minute your child comes home and says, somebody is picking on me in school, don't just say, children will be children. Sometimes that's what happens. I'm not saying that's what happened in this case. You want to, as quickly as you can, send an email to the school documenting what has happened. But they came home today and said BC in school continues to pick on him on the playground. I would like you to please look into it as soon as possible and kindly give me feedback. You do that maybe on Monday in January. You don't hear anything back from them. February, you follow up again. Yeah, maybe you physically go to the school. You're constantly asking your child, how is it going now? What's happening? Sometimes the child that tends to respond to the bully usually does it after a while of taking it. And then the child just lashes out because they can't take it anymore. You can't blame the person who then lashed out, because you're a human being and eventually you're going to be frustrated and act out. What would be better is that the school handles it properly so that it doesn't escalate. So I'm not going to tell this father that his son is wrong or right, because the truth is that physical altercations is not something we want to encourage, because God forbid anything bad happens. So it's not nice, or it's not right that you don't want to teach your child, fight for yourself, punch anybody that tries you. That's not what we're also trying to say. But I think in this case, the father needs to handle it properly. If they're going to be saying that they want to suspend his son for reacting, he should be asking, are they also going to suspend the child that was bullying his son?
Yeah, because he made mention of the fact that he made it known during the opening day and all of that. So I feel like whatever punishment is being given to the boy who fought back, the bully as well, who triggered the wrong action,
he should be asking, so what's going to happen to that person? Or what did you do with the fact that, and that's why I say, when you say you mentioned it in open day, I maybe because I also trained as one of my first jobs was as an internal auditor. So I'm big on, track trails, email trail, so that I can go and say on November 5th, I wrote to you and I said, versus I mentioned it to you in open day, and I don't know if you remember, because open day as well, teachers see how many families.
Wow.
You know what I mean? They might forget. I'm not making excuses for anybody.
Yeah,
I'm just saying that we need to try and see how do we document some of these things so that it's not story. It's not, I told you, you forgot. You'd be like, go and check your email. Did you not see the email I sent on this thing? Yeah.
I like that. Thank you so much. Now, another question that I want to ask for, there is someone I know who, her name is Cynthia, she's my friend. She will tell me that, anytime she got bullied for being of a smaller size, when she got home, she would get beaten. Because the story is it not your mate that is bullying you? Do they have two heads? But without regards to the fact that she's of a smaller stature. So for parents, I know that, growing up, we're expected to be tough. I wouldn't say I was bullied because people tried and they regretted. I didn't hit back, but I'm not a pushover. I might be nice, but you dare not come at me. I wouldn't hit, but I'll just say a word or two that will get you thinking. But in a case whereby someone is soft-spoken and they don't even want to ruffle feathers, and they tried reporting to people at home, and some of these schools, we say that they should report to the teacher, but some of these teachers, they might be able to teach a subject, but they're not nurturing. You get what I mean? They just turn a blind eye and say, go and sit down, I beg, it's children's issues. Like, they will be fine, they will sort themselves out. For a child who has gone home and told their parents and they're being made fun of, like, you're a weakling, can't you fight back? What would you tell such parent listening that perhaps they've heard it and they just brushed it off? They just said, I beg, is you and your mates, you can sort yourselves out, your age mates, you should be able to work this out. What would you say to one such parent?
That's a bit crazy to me that someone would be beaten for being bullied, that they were on the small side and then they beat them at home.
Like, yes.
Like, I mean, when we talk about some of the things that happen, we look back and we can think, what? Maybe that was our parents' way of responding and trying to toughen up the child. But beating a child for coming to say that they were being bullied, how is that going to toughen the child up? Especially when it's for something that the child cannot change. Is it your fault you're small size?
Let me blow your mind. I'm sorry to interject. Yeah. Let me blow your mind. I know someone that said there were many siblings in school, like 3 or 4 siblings, like maybe a year in between each. And if one got beaten, when they go home, they would beat everyone, the older ones, because you're expected to jump or mob whoever hit your sibling. I'm like, how do you encourage? Because that one, you're just raising, would I say warriors or like thugs, but hey, to each their own. If it works for them, who am I to tell a parent how to do it?
When we say if it works for them, the question is, did it work for them? What will be interesting to see is how do those children turn out as adults? Exactly. How are their relationships? How do they respond to conflict, right? How do they respond to things that don't go their way? Do they just go around beating people? That's a maladaptive way of, that's not a positive response at all, to beat children for every sibling that got beaten in school. I mean, but in terms of this, like I said, there will always be bullies. That's the truth, unfortunately, because not everybody is going to be raised in the environment where they know how to handle conflict, they know how to be gentle, they know how to use their words, blah, blah, blah. That is the ideal world, but that is not where we are. And that is, I don't know if we ever get there as humanity. So what we need to be doing is thinking, how do I raise my child to be kind? How do I raise my child to be bold? How do I raise my child to be able to explain what has happened to them? As a parent, if I know I want to raise a child who's kind, who responds positively, who can use their words, who can tell me what's happening and trust that I will respond to what they tell me, means that if a child comes home and says something is happening in the school environment that they don't like, somebody's picking on them, whatever it is, the parent has to show that you are taking the action you need to take. You are going to the school. You're having a conversation with the teacher. You are writing an email. You are following up so that you let the child see that how they feel and what they have told you is important and that you are taking the right actions that you need to take. Then it now becomes an adult-to-adult situation where if the teacher's pastoral care, and that's the other thing, when you're picking schools, you need to be asking in the school, what is your policy around this stuff? If any school tells you, for example, we never have many bullying situations in our school, you know that's probably a red flag.
True. It's a cover up.
So you need to also be, it's probably a cover up, but they're not even paying attention. So they don't even know whether or not it's happening. You need to be asking these questions as well, so that you take it to the adult level. And if the adults don't do anything, you as a mother or father can decide what you want to do. Is that the environment for your child? Do you need to move them? Or do you continue to talk about the fact that they have not resolved the issue and you have a problem with it? Because if we leave children to react themselves, I had a very bad experience yesterday where my daughter asked me if I saw something on Instablog. And this is part of where we come back to, this kindness we're talking about.
Yeah.
If our children are seeing content constantly online, that's not filtered, that's not kind, that's harsh, that's negative, that's toxic, and that's what they're seeing regularly. That level of empathy that we need to be kind continues to go down.
Yes,
which is why
bullying
nowadays is getting worse. Cyberbullying is also getting worse. So she said that this video was put on this particular page on, Instagram. Had I seen it? When we talked about it, she showed it to me. Very unfortunate scenario of something that happened because two people were fighting and one of them, got hurt, right? This was something they saw online and a lot of children had seen it. And it made me ask, how do you feel about what you have just seen? What we are seeing is, I've mentioned it before on this show, this idea of online disinhibition, which is you see things online and you almost separate yourself from it like you're watching a movie.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It is not a movie. It's real life. But when a child is exposed to negative, toxic stuff constantly online, it starts to make them remove themselves from what they are seeing. They start disassociating.
True.
So we're having more and more children now who are actually getting quote and unquote nastier to each other.
Wow. So
that's another level of this, what we're talking about kindness. There's bullying or somebody picking on you. But what about what is going on when we talk about cyberbullying, which is really, really nasty, because for those children, they cannot get away from their cyberbullies. It's 24/7 now. They follow them home online. It continues in WhatsApp. It continues on whatever platforms they are using.